Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. 51 minutes after the hour. I'm wave meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to today's edition of SnowTALK. Yes, I know I'm a little behind here today, but here's the thing, and for those that are on YouTube especially, I had a speaking event this morning, but if I am going to likely delay the blog, I do post on Facebook. That's the only place I can really reach anybody, it seems like, anymore, so it will be there. So make sure to check that to see if I'm going to be early or later in the day. Most of the time, it'll be early, though. Good enough? All right. Just make sure you guys are aware of that so you don't think I'm completely ignoring you. Hello to ZK. Hello to Tyler. Hope all is well with the kid. And hello to Shonda in Jeffersonville. Angela's getting her hair done right now. You want to... How's it going, Angela? Is it going good? Or tell them hello to all the salon. Tell them that all the bots fans say hi. If they don't, make sure they like snow first off. I don't want to mess your hair up. All right, guys, a lot to cover. All right, usually the case, right? We had the system roll through yesterday. All right, so now we're in this in-between, I want to say foggy states, but really is a foggy setup, right? As we wait for system number 2 to arrive this week. That one, relatively tame overall. We'll cover that. And then we get into next week, which is going to be much of the focus today will be how things trend for the end of November and moving into December. Boy, there's been a lot of chatter about that. That's for sure. All right, so let's get into the snowboard. Let's do that. Because, yes, I do have something for the snowboard. 2 items, in fact. I'm going to go with Thanksgiving into Black Friday. I know you're thinking he's making it up. Not making it up. I think it's a legit chance. It needs to stay in the forecast, even though the modeling is not doing very well in handling the setup. I'll explain what we're looking at to see how that will evolve. And then I think we'll warm back up. More than likely, there will be another warm push before we get into another blast of wintry weather, which I think is going to be after the 1st of December, getting into perhaps the 3rd through the 6th time period. More on that coming up in just a few moments. All right, outside at the moment, oh boy, yeah, this is kind of yucky weather, right? The fog, it's been around all day today and will likely linger all the way through the night tonight. So not a lot of improvement here. We don't have a lot of change in the air mass. Don't have a really strong warm front moving in. We don't have a dry punch of air with a cold front. So it's just kind of status quo at the moment. And that's how we're going to hold not only today, but really a good chunk of tomorrow as well. Then we'll stir things up. We'll get some heavier showers in the area. Once you get that, into the mix, you start to steer the air up enough that visibility improves, yet at the same time, it'll be raining harder outside versus drizzle, actual downpours again. So visibility will not improve greatly, but it'll be a different kind of view compared to the fog. Fair enough? Quiet today, though, overall, just a bit on the misty side outside. All right, so let's run through the visibilities. I think I had that in here. Let me check. Did I forget that? I did. They're running roughly about 1 to 2 miles in many spots. But when you southern towns, what it's like in several areas in Indiana and Kentucky. Okay, the thermometer today. Well, this is not going to move very much because we are relatively saturated. So because, again, you're not changing the moisture level and the overall atmosphere in general is not getting flipped. So because of that, the amount of movement you get on the thermometer is very, very minor. So maybe 1 or 2 degrees here and there. That's about it. So what you see, what you get for today. So if you have a plan to take a nap for the rest of the afternoon, this is great napping weather. Oh, I wish I was at home right now. I could use a good nap. Sit in front of the Christmas tree with a nap right now. Cuddle with Dobie. Fireplace. Doesn't that sound nice? I know. Maybe after work, I'll get there. Okay, a lot of clouds in the area now, as I mentioned, and the fog and low cloud extent pretty extensive all the way back into the central and southwest side of the Show Me State. So we're not alone. I mean, the entire Midwest in the Ohio Valley is dealing with this kind of soupy setup. So if you're traveling today, this is nasty for you. Traveling to St. Louis or heading to Midwest, you'll have weather like we have out there now all the way through your drive. So yeah, fairly extensive, crummy setup today. But here's our system. It's going to stir things up again. Now located into the Four Corners area near Vegas, rolling on out. It will be a very elongated system, so we will likely get some increase in showers tomorrow night. But the majority of the rain for this system is going to be a Friday type of setup. So let me walk you through this. Here we go, Futurecast. Late tomorrow night, in the evening, the rain showers will start to increase in coverage and in intensity. And I think during the day tomorrow, including this time tomorrow, we will likely still be in a very similar setup, but just drizzly and overcast. I don't think the majority of the showers are going to start to kick up until we get until after sunset as we head into later into Saturday or Thursday evening there. And then that will continue into Friday. And again, a very elongated low pressure, but it does have a nice little southerly component to it as we get into Friday. And I do think that may be enough to add thunder into the mix here with this. Don't see a repeat of, hail or anything like that getting out of the system yet. But high res can't fully see this, the synoptic setup that we have of this particular low. So until we get that data, we can't say for certain and for sure that we're going to be avoiding any type of hail issues. But I wouldn't rule it out some small hail possible, especially in central and southern Kentucky, where temperatures may be a bit warmer above 60 in several areas. But majority of this is going to be just clusters of rain and not the best of travel setups either for the end of the week here. And this will linger into early Saturday. Right now, I'm thinking this will taper off to a drizzle setup by the time we wake up on Saturday morning. But dry air will try to fight in behind this. It's a very similar setup to this previous system, and you saw what's happening today. So it will take a strong push of dry to really clear the air out. So be patient with the clearing on Saturday. It may be slower than you really would want it to be, but it will eventually win out. The dry air will take over, and we'll end up clearing the sky out. Should get some late day sun for Saturday with a colder night, Saturday night back into the 30s. Overall rainfall amounts. This one has got a decent amount of moisture with it. So because of the slow nature of it, and it's more west-east, anytime you got a west-east system versus north-south, you have more of a heavier rain setup for our area, at least to what we call the training effect of these downpours. So some of these rainfall amounts could exceed 1 inch, maybe up to 2 inches. Most of the 2-inch amounts you see in yellow are because of convective elements here, thunderstorms that fire up in Missouri and Tennessee. So if we were to get some lightning and thunder a little more north into I-64, then some totals over 2 inches would be possible. If it's a general rain, though, I think 1 inch, inch and a half is going to be a fair amount that we'll see. And a bit lighter, more north you do travel. All right, so that's our setup for this weekend as the system rolls on by. Any questions on that I can try to answer? Even though I know they're already asking about the New Year's Eve forecast. I know you guys are. I don't have to look at the chat. I don't have to look. I already know what you guys are asking. How much snow we're going to get? Is there going to be a blizzard on December 15th? I know what you're going to ask. The answer to that is I don't know, in case you're wondering. I love everyone's fired up, though. I'm ready for some changes coming our way. And there will be some significant changes, so get ready. All right, so let's get right into it. As we get into the Thanksgiving week holiday period here, the system we've been watching that's going to be rolling in out of Texas, the Euro was caught on. It's gotten rid of its bias a bit more compared to what it did have, where it's going to roll it out a little faster, which makes more sense for it to do versus holding it back, is what the Euro was trying to do for a while there. Now it's going to roll it out faster. So that will mean Tuesday will likely be our stormy day for the travel week. Showers, thunderstorms, Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the Deep South. Too early to talk about anything strong, but right now I can tell you just by the angle of attack here this low will likely have, your severe risk is likely going to be confined to an I-10, I-20 type of zone if there's going to be anything. Little suspect it'll go all the way to I-64, but it's still early. So at this time of year, you just got to wait and see how things trend as you get closer. But on paper anyway, I think it's going to be very similar to what these two systems this week are. But Tuesday looks to be the main impact day as far as the storm system goes. It will linger a bit on Wednesday, maybe some drizzle on the backside of this, but then we have the cold plunge that will move in. This is not the main show on cold, by the way. It may seem like it, but it's not quite there yet. Not quite there yet, but it is a teaser to what is likely going to happen over the next couple of weeks here. So this cold blast has got a nice little kick to it. The challenge we got is, will we get anything wintry out of this? And this is what the debate has been, really, not only for within our own selves, but even within social media, as I'm sure those of you on social media are fully aware. You've seen the post. Here's the thing. Models like this, like the Euro especially, the main run you see here runs twice a day. It does have an off run that also runs early in the morning and again in the evening. That doesn't go quite as far out in time, but it's still an update. It's not bad. But these types of model runs are going to struggle because this is going to capture basically what it feels like is the main theme of what will happen. It doesn't see the entire picture. And that's where ensembles come into play with models to see all its different thoughts it has in its head. I've used this analogy before, and I really think it's a fair one to use. And I'll explain it again. If I were to walk, and I use this because of schools, because we do school talks, but I walk into a classroom full of students, and they're sitting there, and I ask each one of them what they think the weather is going to be like, say for Thanksgiving, because I'm going to treat each one of them as a weather model. All right, the kid in the first row may say it's going to be sunny and 65. The next kid's going to say cloudy and 50. Next one's going to say snow and 32. It's always the third row kid. Anyway, you get into the fourth row, then you get into rain and 65. All right, then it gets frustrating for meteorologists because then we got to figure out which one of you is lying. And better yet, which one of you is telling the truth, especially if you're all saying different things. And that's where the meteorology comes into play. So we got to take the data, hash it out, and come into a better idea of what we think is the most likely scenario at that time. The model, what you see here, tends to pick out the main one of that round that it likes, to be honest, and it displays that. And that's the one that everyone sees on websites. But you don't see all what the other kids were saying. And I think that's important. You gotta have an idea what everyone's saying, right? So those types of days are frustrating. And next week is one of those types of setups where we do have almost every kid saying something different. But when you walk in and they all say the same thing, snow and 32, well, that's fun because that means it's easy going for us and it's likely going to happen. We don't run into those days very often unless you're in the summer. Then it's like that every day. 95, hot, sunny, easy. I've only seen it in bad weather once in my career when it came to a tornado outbreak. That was March 2nd, 2012. 4 days in advance, we had every kid in the class screaming tornado outbreak, significant tornado outbreak. Never have seen that in my career before that. I haven't seen it since. So it's alarming when you see that in terms of bad weather too. So sometimes it's good and bad. It works against you. In this case, they're all saying something different. And the reasoning for that is that it's a blocking pattern. Anytime you get into a blocking setup, the jet becomes much more amplified. You're going to get a lot of different solutions here to this because they all have their own biases. Some are a little stronger with energy in the northern jet, some with the southern jet, and they just go back and forth. And you will get model whiplash. If you look at one run and then 6 hours later, you look at another one, it's going to show something different. Cameron, I saw your comment about the snow. that was around showing the snow yesterday and then disappeared, went away and disappeared. Well, in reality, Cameron, it has not gone anywhere. It is still there. It just only shows up at times because the model run that you see that displays the graphics sniffs out one of those ideas. But when you look at the ensembles, it never went anywhere. And that's what's important. You got to pay attention to that trend more than any of them. So what I'm thinking right now is going to be the setup is we're going to get this storm system on Tuesday with rain and thunderstorms, right? We get into the cold blast of air that moves in. Now, there is a piece of energy that is going to dive down the jet flow from the northwest. It'll round the base of the trough. As it does so and digs, there will be a slowing of that wave to where it will try its best to develop some type of low pressure somewhere in our area, whether it's Tennessee, Kentucky, or Alabama, or Georgia, I don't know. But it wants to slow it down to allow development and then become a bigger system and track northeast. The problem is some of the model runs that run through here are saying, nope, it's going to be too fast. There's not enough time for it to get any moisture. There's nothing for this to grab a hold of. It's going to move on by, boom, nothing burger whatsoever. That's fair. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's the challenge we've got is the speed of this diving in behind this with the cold air. Can it slow down? Can it develop into something or not? And we're going to get mixed reviews on this, on how this will play out. For an example, let me show you the GFS ensemble. You see wavy kicking in. Thank you, wavy. Quarter mile visibility. All right. So here are the different ideas for the GFS run that just came in for Black Friday afternoon. See the first one, I mean, a little bit of a hint right there. Sorry, I don't know why this pen never draws. The second one, not so much. Third one, yeah, okay, a little bit of a hint as we get there into that third box. The fourth box definitely has a storm system, but it's more on the warmer side, right? More rain than anything locally. You get into the other rows. I mean, there are several that are showing up indicating not as much activity on the wintry side. There's a couple here that show it. There's one here. Let's see. There's a hint certainly there of one. And you see the pieces. You see the hints of it. Different ones have it slow enough that there's a bit of moisture that develops into the Appalachians and tries to slow down. There's some that obviously take it too fast and they have nothing in their slot. But it's all a mix of ideas. And until we see this kind of clear out more on one direction or the other, there is always going to be what we call, in weather world, there's always going to be a chance. So that's what we're going at right now for the setup is a chance to get something that could develop at the surface level as we head into Thanksgiving and Friday. But for now, that's all the data we can really go with. So because of that, we can't go much more than a low end snow chance. We know it's going to be cold, so that's easy. So we know the form that the precipitation will be snow. So that's easy for us. So we put snow in and we go low end on the chances because confidence is not high. There's no way you could look at that and say confidence is high, we're going to get snow. But confidence is certainly not zero that we're not going to get snow. So it's a double negative, but you get the idea. Looking at the matrix. Oh, you guys love the matrix. This is from the Euro. Euro is updating right now, by the way. I want to look at it here in a second. But for the matrix, for that window of Thursday to Friday, yeah, they're not all filled in. All right. Remember, you really want to see each one of these roles, each ensemble member, each student in the classroom saying the same thing. And once they do, then you pay attention. Then you pay attention to what it's saying on the mounts. And it's not there yet. It's still very blotchy, but it is what I call a noisy signal. It's obvious that the model is struggling. And this is a different one. You just saw the GFS where it still has hints, and so does the Euro. So they're not settled yet, and that's to be expected. It's still far out, more than a week out. So there's not much we can go in detailed other than just saying there's a chance. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here. I'm saying the same thing over and over, but I at least want to explain the challenges that come into play when it comes into weather models and their outlooks. All right. Fair enough. Everybody good on that? I just saw the new Euro, by the way. It's main run. I haven't seen the ensembles yet. They haven't started running, but the main run just came in, and it's very similar in idea. It wants to go fast. So the Euro is so far wanting to fight on the idea that it would be a faster setup and not slow enough to gain any moisture. I don't think anyone really wants a snowstorm, though, for Thanksgiving, right? I don't think anyone does. What'd you say, Greg? 10 days out. You can't even forecast Derby weather 2 days out. Thanks, Greg. Greg is one of my big fans, by the way. Everyone say hi, Greg. Let's see. Let's see. Thanks about the tie. I don't know. My tie worn this tie several times. I didn't know why it stands out today. Hey, Les, how you doing? Models typically get their data from various sources, weather balloons, past events, analogs. Well, true. Weather balloons especially, and that's only, Les, for the model runs that run in the middle of the night and in the middle of the daytime here, the midday. Those are the only two runs that have weather balloon data. The other off runs do not. So that's why we don't talk about the off run models very much in the evening, unless you're very close to the event, and maybe they have some validity to them. But in general, what it does is the model takes the weather balloon data that it got that day, it looks at it and says, okay, how can I rearrange it and make it look different? And it spits out a different idea. So there's good and bad on some of that with the model runs, but the 0 and 12Z, yes, 0 and 12 are the only ones you can really go with. What'd you say, Tim? I got a 4x4. I ain't scared. Most people have 4x4s now. The 1994 storm changed all of us on that one. So what happens after this? Well, after we get past how this will all connect together for the end of next week and that following weekend, we got to keep an eye on the polar vortex. Now, this is something that we have much more data on, because where this is happening in the stratosphere, this is not where weather is happening. This is above that layer in the atmosphere. It's high up, really high up. So because of that, it's a little easier to get data on it and easier to see things evolve. You don't have as much complexity of our layer of the atmosphere where weather happens, because you got friction, you got clouds, wind. There's so much other things that and friction of the land area that it changes it all and it gets messy, right? So when we look at the stratosphere, it's easy to sniff out when the sudden stratospheric warming and polar vortex changes will happen. That's why you're hearing so much talk about it. It's a little easier to see that. And we do see it happening. It looks like it's going to start next Wednesday and Thursday. So roughly a week from today, it should begin. It takes typically about 10 to 15 days for us to see the end result of it. The question is, what will that end result be? And that's a good one. Unfortunately, we don't have enough data to know that. We're not that advanced yet to know how this always translates, because we've seen it happen different ways almost every single time. How it translates to what's happening above to affect our weather down here below, it doesn't always go exactly as you think it will. And we learn something every time this happens. And to add on to this, to see this happen before we close out officially November on the 30th, would be one of the earliest times we've ever seen this happen since we've had data to track all of this. So that gives us a very limited scope when it comes to analogs. We don't have a lot to work with here on what typically has happened before. So we're kind of no man's land on that one, which is a little uncomfortable. But we do know in the past, when we have these stratospheric warming episodes that take place, there is a delay. And that's where I think everyone's getting impatient, because there's so much talk about this event happening next week. There's a lot of feeling that it's going to happen next week as far as the end result. And that's not the case. There is a gap. There is a delay that happens. So we got to account for that. So yes, it's going to get colder next week, but it's nothing brutal. We're looking at 30s for highs. We can handle that. That's nothing unusual. Even the cold attacks in very early December don't look brutal. But you get into mid-December, and I would include even into Christmas, then we will start to see the end result of what this will likely start to look like. But the challenge will it be aiming toward us? Will it aim toward the central United States? Will it actually aim toward Europe? That's fair. It's possible on all three of those ideas. So it's not a guarantee that we're going to be the lucky ones, quote unquote lucky, to get this. There are a lot of questions on where it will go, but we at least know that it's going to be a shakeup. It's going to be fascinating to watch. For those of you that love meteorology, it's going to be very intriguing, because again, we're running into a setup here that we don't have a lot of data on. So it should be fascinating to watch. You can see here as we head into at least the end of November, and this is not entirely a polar vortex, but you can see the cold air does stretch down in the eastern United States, but it's not the core of it moving in. So while you hear about cold weather, I'm sure, and you will hear about it arriving at the end of next week, it's not as a result of what's happening here in the upper layers of the atmosphere. Not yet. It's too far out of range for us to see. As soon as I get word in, or I feel like we were getting solid data that we're starting to see that flip happen, we will let you know. I promise. Fair enough? Is everyone good on how this all works? I hope so, because I don't want to get too in the weeds on it. I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed with all the data and everything you see everywhere. It could be a bit much. I totally understand. It's a bit much for me to read it all, to be honest. But I think if you are a fan of cold weather and you want some snow chances anyway into the Christmas holiday season, this is a setup you would want to have happen. I mean, this is going to lead right into that. So this is, for once, we actually have an early kickoff to the winter season that is showing up. Typically, we got to wait till late January, mid-January in some cases, mid to late, before we see a big flip that happens, right? So this year it's going to be earlier. Now, will it hold for a long period of time? That's a good question. Typically, it's about another 14 days. It duplicates. It's a delay as far as its effect, same time period, roughly 10 to 15-ish, that it can hold on, and then it'll start to loosen its grip. And then you may have another one after that. We average sometimes, you can get up to 3. I've seen has been a common theme, but you get them in the spring, as I mentioned before, but you don't notice them as much in the spring, other than everyone complaining at Thunder over Louisville that they're freezing outside and cold wind chills. But that's actually a result of what is happening here in the atmosphere in the spring season. But we just don't talk a lot about snow. We just talk about being miserable and cold with drizzle falling outside. But it does happen a few times in the season. This one's one of the earliest we've seen. Back to 60s. I think it was 61. I believe it was 1961. And then maybe another time in the 80s, early 80s, 81, 82. Also was the other time that we have seen hints of that at the end of November. All right, guys, I'm not going to dwell on it too long here. We're going to get more data coming up later this week. We get a new update every 2 to 3 days on how the upper atmosphere is looking and how that's beginning to translate downward. And again, as soon as we see a hint of it, we'll let you know. But this cold blast next week is nothing earth-shattering. This is a typical cold blast coming in, but it's going to be cold enough that, yes, if there's any moisture around, it would be in the form of a snowflake. So I think it's fair to say there's going to be a chance to get some light snow if that little vort that moves in, if it can slow down enough, this could grow into a higher chance, but I don't think we can go much higher than 20% for right now. But I don't think everyone's going to complain about that too much, because a lot of people want to travel, right? You want to get to your relatives, at least I hope you do, and you want to travel back home safely. And you got, maybe your kids are coming to visit from school. So I get it. You don't want anything crazy happening, but maybe some festive flakes, maybe snow showers and flurries. Yeah, that'd be fair. I think everybody would be fine with that. Yeah, I mean, doing some shopping with flakes flying around, why not? I don't think I'm going to be too upset over it, right? Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I never worry about you all as a community. I think you guys are always fair to me and for all of us on the team, actually. So we appreciate that. It doesn't go unnoticed. I know we're lucky because not all weather communities are as kind to their meteorologists. So we appreciate you all being a part of our discussion every day and listening to what we're saying more than the superficial look of a 10-day. You're looking at what is beyond that. And it's so hard to explain it all. It really is. But we enjoy it at the same time because we want you to understand. We want you to, hopefully it helps calm your nerves too. If you're nervous about a system coming in, hopefully us explaining it helps that out in a big way. Okay, guys, I'll stop rambling. I always do this. I say I'm going to stop rambling and I always ramble. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow. Carrie, hopefully I'll be on time. And we'll see how it looks with the updated into later next week. Take care, everyone, and I will see you guys on the flip side.